Thank you. I call the meeting to order, the Board of Library Trustees, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Library Trustee Petty.
Here.
Library Trustee Silvera.
Here.
Library Trustee Moreau.
Here.
Vice Chair Joshi.
Here.
And Chair Felgood.
Here. Thank you. Consent items. The first, we have two items on the consent agenda. The first is approval of the minutes. The second is requesting an appropriation of $7,500 in grant funds for fiscal year 23-24 Library Trust Fund budget. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes and approve the appropriation? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Yeah, you ask for discussion or questions when it's,
Sure.
because I did have one. Now, my question is with regard to the appropriation, not the minutes. Brian, the computers that are going into the My Place to Learn Early Learning Lab Hub or Hub project, they won't have internet access, but they're preloaded with interacting learning and activities and games. Can you just give me a few examples of what those are? Because I think that's fantastic the way you're presenting this here, but I didn't know what.
Yeah, so depending on like kind of the age group you buy them for, usually you get these ones for ages 2 through 8. So these would be kind of the similar kind of like to what tablet games are, where you're aligning up language, either literacy or there's some kind of simple coding kind of products and games. And sometimes they'll have just like coloring because they're touchscreen computers. So you can get touchscreen computers and that. There are options for tablets. I prefer not for the tablets because then they just walk away from the area, but having a touchscreen computer and then anything that's often they will have a volume and everything, but yeah, everything is preloaded in a game. So you can't upload any new games unless you work directly with the vendor, and people can't access any kind of external YouTube or anything else that's inappropriate for the child on those computer stations.
That means they can't cheat either.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't go look up the answer on Wikipedia or something.
Right. Well, these are really, people wouldn't be, if you went to those, you wouldn't be able to go access your email or do anything like that.
It's not for internet use anyhow, right? But
it might have things like, I've seen these things having things like Dora the Explorer, Diego, and other characters and activities that appeal to small children that are usually very short games. They're not something you spend like a video game where you spend hours.
Well, that sounds great. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. I was just thinking that if I were a parent and I had kids, they would see me looking up words to crossword puzzles on Wikipedia all the time. And obviously they'll have to use their own brain cells with these. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
So, any other trustees? Harish, did you have?
You say these activities are geared towards ages 2 to 8. You focus on building digital literacy. What is a digital literacy for a 2 to 8-year-old?
Well, I will say, as my son is a six-year-old, and not sixth grader. Woo! As a 6-year-old, the testing for kindergarten is on tablets and laptops right now. They actually log in with the QR code into their specific laptop. They have different coding or language tests that are all on there. So kids as early as in kindergarten are being asked to use technology. So this is actually getting them used to using technology, whether it's keyboard, a mouse, these kind of tools that when they're there, by the time they're 5 and 6, they're going to have to start learning these things in the school district. Yeah, so it's real early learning kind of as a
well, and there'll be staff available to help them if they have trouble. So it's good preparation for what they're going to face, in their regular school at the end of summer. Yeah, very good.
Any other questions, clarifications? Can we go ahead and have a vote? Do we need a roll call on this? All those in favor of approving the two consent item agendas?
Oh, just in case there is a public participant, so I want to just share how to
Okay,
participate and then just see if it's actually for this specific item. So for anyone who's not joining us here in the council chamber, you may join directly on Zoom Gov from your computer or mobile device, or you may call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. To call in by telephone, dial toll-free 833-568-8864. Enter meeting ID 161-352-8864, followed by the pound sign. To make a public comment, please click on your raised hand button in the Zoom toolbar. If you called in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9. Today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account at youtube.com/City of Monterey with an approximate 10-second delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. If you plan to make a public comment, join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, and ensure you join in time to accommodate the delay. So I will go ahead and unmute the caller who is here, and if you would like to speak during this particular item, you're able to do so. If you're waiting for public comments, then that will be coming shortly.
Yes, I will wait till public comment. However, I missed the first two consent items. Just wanted to see if this was the opportunity to speak about the summer reading program.
Not yet for the public comments, just coming up in a moment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the consent items before we vote? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. This is now the time for public comments. This allows you, the public, to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any subject which is not on the agenda. Any person or group desiring to bring an item to the attention of the library board may do so during public comments or by addressing a letter of explanation to the library director at Monterey Public Library, 625 Pacific Street, Monterey. Do we have any members of the public? I understand we have one person who wishes to speak.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. So, oops. One moment. So if the caller online would like to share your name, you're welcome to, and you may go ahead.
Well, thanks for taking my call. My name is Mr. Allen. I wrote an email to the library director and also to the city manager. And I got a very thorough and lengthy reply from the library director. I appreciate that. It was in regards to the summer reading program and some of the options for the kids. So I only bring this up as a point of inflection, if you will. So part of the issue was the bingo card that is being used for the kids to encourage them to read. So we don't have a problem with that with our child. It's a clever way of getting children to read through the summer. However, there is one of the squares is a banned book square. And you do not have to complete the whole bingo card to win a prize, but there are prizes which are incentive. So I think our concern is with banned books that there is a tendency to encourage specifically young kids, elementary school and whatnot, to start searching for a banned book. And we feel that is inappropriate. And I know the director pointed us to the American Library Association, which we feel is frankly, it's a corrupted organization, and they advertise these banned books to the kids. So many of them are banned for several reasons, and you may be familiar, but some are banned because of the sexual explicitity of the books. So I just want to point that out, that we do not want our kids searching for these books in the library, whether online or apparently there's no filters for a young child, let's say a young teen who wants to check out a banned book that may be very explicit. And we feel that the library needs to refocus on that. Maybe there's a way to kind of put these books aside. I do not know how you will do that on the internet, though, because that's very difficult. You have to put filters in. So I'm going to conclude my comments. I appreciate you taking my call. Just food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And would you like to come forward and address the board?
Sure, I would be happy to come up and to the podium with the microphone, but I'm actually requesting not to be videotaped.
Sure. We, that's fine. Amp, when she comes to the podium, she would request not to be videotaped. So if you can keep the camera where it's at right now on the trustees, please. So,
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, Board of Library Trustees, thank you. Thank you for your time and effort towards the Monterey Library. My family and I have been avid patrons of the library, and we are grateful for all the library services and our library memories that have made up my children's childhood. Due to my love for the library and for my children, I was compelled to write an email to the library director regarding a couple of issues in relation to the summer reading program. First, I indicated disappointment that the rainbow colors were used for the background of the summer reading program logo, referencing the connection to the rainbow pride flag, since the summer reading program mission is to promote literacy and not one group's agenda. Brian replied by including the history of rainbows, yet also included that he indicated its use was to promote inclusion, which made me wonder, would a logo not be inclusive if it was not rainbow colored? Second, I stated that I thought it was inappropriate that reading a banned book was a bingo square on the reading log. His reply included information about classics and mainstream banned books, and he included an image of banned books statistics from ALA. But what wasn't included was another ALA flyer, which lists the 13 most challenged books, which are all on the list due to explicit sexual content. It is these borderline pornographic books that I was concerned about in regards to children, not biographies about Hank Aaron. Like Bob stated in the last meeting, I also have no interest in dealing with banning the use of the word diversity in libraries. So I sent that one email and the library director sent one email back. That was it. I was done, and I figured further correspondence would not be productive. I only provide these details as a background. It does not matter that you disagree with my opinions. Why I am here today is not to continue a discussion on those issues. Why I am here is because I was quite surprised and a little shocked to see that the one email I sent to the library ended up being the subject of a weekly newspaper article, a headline for the online version, a headline that misrepresented that I was outraged. Even though my name was redacted, I was not aware that it was library policy to hand over a patron's email to a newspaper without even the common courtesy and respect of asking that person's permission. It says on the library website that Monterey Public Library welcomes your comment and suggestions. However, it seems all library users should be aware that if they make any suggestions to the library, it may end up published in the weekly newspaper. Apparently, patrons are actually not welcome to give feedback to the library or state their concerns for their children and have an exchange and dialogue with the library director without it being released to the media. Although Brian's reply to me stated, "Thank you for reaching out," that did not seem genuine since he gave my email to the weekly where it was used by the weekly editor to try to point out that my concerns were somehow petty and unimportant. It is ironic that I'd like to just finish. I just have a couple more sentences, if that's
Sure.
okay, please. It is ironic that Brian's comments indicate that he is trying to be inclusive and promote diversity. Yet when a person offers a different opinion, it is reported to the weekly newspaper for the editor to berate and sensationalize the topic. It was very disheartening that the first and only time I submitted any comments to the library over these past 15 years, this was the outcome. I don't know if the library has a policy regarding the handling of patron communications, but in my opinion, providing my email to the newspaper was inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty. The next item on the agenda is a public appearance. Item number 3, review council policy on selection of officers and select chair and vice chair for 2023 and 2024. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look. I'm sure you have the documentation that talks about our existing procedure. Under this particular policy, Harish would normally take my position as chair. And then on the line of succession, if she accepts it, Janie would come on as vice chair. Harish, are you still willing to become chair for the coming year?
I am.
Great. Janie, are you willing to accept the position of vice chair?
I have some reservations. I've lived in Monterey for over 30 years. I'm dedicated to libraries and Monterey Library in particular, but I am out of town a lot, so I'm not sure about the scheduling issues, but I will do my best and I will see how it goes as vice chair and go from there.
Excellent. Well, then we will go ahead and officially set it up. So the next meeting, Harish will be our chair. Janie will be our vice chair. So thank you. We're now at the section of informational reports and staff comments. Item number 4, receive update on library director activities. Brian, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Hold on just a moment. All right, so our 2 CSUMB service learners have completed their roles in assisting with the Path of History and Public Art tour content. So this is the expanding the Path of History into a online app, and we're currently in the process of working with that. And working with Monterey County to bring a youth intern to assist with digitizing content for a California History Room. And this is going to be paid for, position would be paid for by the county. So I'm working through all that. They're working with several positions in the city. And Megan Bispo's taken on the role of fund development assistant. I applied for and was awarded a grant for, it's a STEM programming grant for blue whales through StarNet Libraries. And so we're going to be partnering with a couple agencies on doing some programs regarding blue whales and migration patterns here in the Monterey Bay. And we've got a $1,000 honorarium and a life-size blue whale tail floor mat coming into the library, 25 foot by 10 feet, it's pretty large coming in. Different activities in AR experiences, augmented reality. I'm looking forward to see what all the package that we receive regarding these STEM activities, whether they're books or videos and different things on there. So we're looking forward to doing some different programs in the community regarding blue whales. We worked on the summer reading board. We've been having a great turnout of that and went out to back to print more boards. And our children's librarian, Bianca, translated everything into Spanish this year. There was one year I asked for everything to be in English and in Spanish. And participants color a sardine for every 30 minutes of reading right now. And on the back is a bingo board. You only need to get 1 row of the bingo board. We're not doing it in any additional prizes if you black out the board, but there is a super reader game board as well for people that want to get more prizes on that. We're selling the stickers over at the library store. You'll see those on the attachment. The bookmobile update, the revised bookmobile design has been received, and finalized design needs to be approved by the California State Library. I will say our current bookmobile is actually out of service as well. U-joint is broken. And so right now we actually got a new van from the city janitorial staff that has not been retrofitted. So we're using that for delivering books. So we were at Merrill Gardens and Park Lane today with that vehicle, and I've asked to borrow that through at least July 31st so that we have a vehicle to outreach and for the bookmobile. Battery recycling container, I've added that inside the library near the back doors, and that was something that pre-pandemic we had, and then there's a household waste battery program. So if you do have batteries, you can put them in a 1-quart plastic bag on top of your recycling bin, it'll be picked up, but multifamily residents cannot. So adding that into, otherwise you have to take your batteries there to Marina to get them brought in. So that one, the disposal bin is inside the library, and then staff will be taking the batteries there to Marina to be recycled.
You said it's inside the back door?
Going through the parking lot, the entrance coming in through the
Yeah.
parking lot,
But-
and there's a display of flyers. There's a big, it's about a 3 or 4 foot tube, and then you just drop your batteries in there.
Oh, okay. So it's basically across the walking path from the copy machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
And right now we just added it. I don't know, Kim, like a week or two ago, and it's 2/3 full. So the thing is, they're adding up quick. I think a lot of people are trying to find a place to recycle their batteries. So it'd be nice. I was happy to add that service back in the library. We're scheduling next steps with Page and Turnbull regarding an expanded path of history. Our public meeting dates looking pending, possibly first week of August. These would be public meetings to discuss adding additional sites on the path of history, expanded path of history grant that we're working through with museums. So I'm happy to be working on that. We'll be doing those meetings at the library. It'll be community meetings to discuss 2 unique paths. Right now, one is looking at the Pearl District and Japanese community. The second district is possibly looking at going through New Monterey and a lot of the immigration stories there. Right now, the current path of history really highlights the Spanish, Mexican, and early California years, thinking that a lot of the stories coming in through Monterey, like when the path of history was started in the early 1930s, a lot of those things, that's when the cannery road and cannery industry was really building in, and a lot of immigration came in. So what can we bring in of new stories, 90 years later? And I've submitted our collection assessment for preservation reports for Colton Hall Old Jail and our collections at the vault. And I'm going to be waiting. That was basically doing a collection and facility assessment of Colton Hall, the old jail, and the vault where we store our collections. My concern started, I filed for this grant before I started this job, but I put in for it to think about like, what can we use for the museum, thinking that looking at some of the collections that are on display inside of Colton Hall haven't changed in many years. So that's where I was looking at that, as well as the storage and collection of our items in our vault, which we have on Alvarado Street, and thinking of things like some of our negatives where they are stored in the wrong sleeves, there's deterioration, the refrigeration that's needed. So learning about a lot of those items will help us with best practices for our museums as well. So we just received that report and hosted the opening of the Buffalo Soldiers exhibit at the Presidium Museum on June 17th. And I think that was a great event. We counted, the docents counted 105 people coming that day, which was a great attendance, and did an interview with KSBW and that day too. So there was a great event, I think. And on the attachment, you will see the game board, the stickers, and the battery recycling container. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Harish?
Tell me about the AR experiences you're talking about. How can I rock with those new Apple devices at $3,500 a pop? Those will eat through your budget in no time.
So I think the budget is really for the program side, not for equipment. And that's why I want to see exactly what they give us for the AR, for the, whether that's, Oculus devices. I don't know if this was something tied to Oculus or something that's how they haven't given us that information yet for the AR, but the AR experience is supposed to be what it's like in being inside of a whale. So I don't know if this is like a video that they stream or something that you tie into like buying an Oculus Go or one of those, because an Oculus Go, you know, or some of these PlayStation devices you can get for under $400 or $500. They're a lot, you know, single kind of user experiences. I just haven't seen it yet. I listened to the webinar. I didn't, but we haven't received the packages yet. So I don't know if that's the package actually includes any equipment or not. We haven't seen that. But the $1,000 is really towards doing programs. And the thoughts that I had on the programs is partnering with the Pacific Grove Natural History Museum and doing a migration patterns of blue whales talk over there, and doing a partnership with CSUMB because they have a nature illustration program. If you go to the PG Natural History Museum right now, they have an exhibit on the artists there. So I've connected with them to get names of artists that do classes to teach, like to do like a drawing class. And then this would cover like honorariums, the $1,000 for that. And then also possibly Protect Monterey Bay. And that's the youth group that talks about preserving Monterey and nature stewardship. So other kind of services, and then maybe history talks about the whaling industry in Monterey. But
What's the amount of the grant?
what's that?
What's the amount of the grant that was awarded?
Well, it really, the amount is, the only financial dollar amount was the $1,000 honorarium. The other thing is the materials. So really what they're doing is they're giving you a number of materials, and the $1,000 would be the amount that we approve once we receive once we receive that, that would be appropriated at a later date.
So StarNet Libraries is, I'm gathering, a nonprofit organization that provides these kinds of supplies and curricula and stuff to public libraries like ours.
Correct. And another example that they do is the solar eclipse. And I
Oh,
believe, Kim, I mean, we ordered how many? 500 or so, 250?
I think like 600 eclipse glasses.
Yeah, so we've ordered 600 eclipse glasses. So they're another agency. They really promote science, and they've worked, you know, they work with IMLS and they work with NASA and they work with libraries nationwide. So I believe we're the only library, as far as I saw, in kind of the Central Coast here in California, got this grant for blue whales. And it's great because we have blue whales out here in Monterey Bay. So
Do you know when, I know Bianca's kind of coordinating this, right? And going to the training, it says here, but the 4 public events, do you know when those will be taking place here and sort of what they'll look like?
not exactly. We're waiting to get all of the package of information. And the first webinar was really just an introduction. It didn't give us a timeline of like, this is when you need to have everything and when your reports are due. I know that Whale Fest is happening next April, I believe. You know, so April 2024. So tying things around Whale Fest might be a great time to do things like March and April of
Is the
2024.
idea that the 4 public events related to blue whales will be online or in person?
A mix.
Oh,
I think a mix, because if we do like a talk, some of our talks are done online, but we wanted to do
okay.
an event at the PG Natural History Museum, or a drawing program that'd be at the beach, or, you know, somewhere that'd be about drawing sea life outside or possibly inside the library.
I just want to say, don't advertise that you have a life-size, pardon me, blue whale floor mat if it's only 25 feet long.
That's just the tail.
I'm sorry?
That's just the tail.
Oh, the tail.
25-foot blue whale, oh, tail, I'm sorry, okay. As putting on my Point Lobos docent hat on for 30 seconds, that's something we learn about because people visiting Point Lobos ask about them, and they're actually about 100 feet long. And you know, some of us have a rope that we string out, and we say, well, from where you're standing all the way to where that rope ends, you know, that's the length of the whale, or if it's a gray whale, or whatever it is. But anyhow, they're about 100 feet. So, and the weight per foot is even more amazing.
Any other questions or comments
Yeah,
from
Great,
trustees?
great program to tie in with a lot of the other things that go on in this
Yeah.
neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No? Thank you, Brian. Next item on the agenda, receive quarterly report on library activities.
Okay, I'll go through some of the highlights. Programming wise, Cannery Row Days was very popular again. It occurred in March and April and focused on Steinbeck's Sea of Cortez. And local history librarian Andre Scarza and Brian Edwards were point people for working with the community of experts that put on the series of events. Sewing with Mary is still quite popular. It's still averaging between 25 and 35 participants per session, and we've added a tween addition to that. Another popular series that librarian Sarah Nolan has been working on hosting is Before They Vanish, the Travelogues with James Dorsey. That one happens once a month, and we've been getting about 40 people in person for that. We in April participated in the Monterey Museum of Art's inaugural block party, and we had about 600 people stop by our table where we were hosting an opportunity to make buttons and bookmarks. Also, a lot of time was spent this last quarter planning for summer reading. The theme is Find Your Voice at the Library, and it's running now June through July. So that has been going well. And I'll also highlight that we hosted our volunteer appreciation at the beginning of April. And so we were able to host a luncheon and a walking tour with partnered with state parks for our volunteers. And we really appreciate all that the library and museum volunteers provide for us.
Marcia?
I actually think it's a question for Brian. The teen librarian got authorization there. When are you able to?
Microphone, by the way.
When are you able to bring on the teen librarian and are there plans for teen programs coming up?
Great question. So I will say, Kim and I worked on the requisition form and I submitted that earlier this week to our human resources department to get in the queue for that. So we are waiting on, I know that the city has a number of different openings right now. So we are just waiting on the city for the timeline for opening that position, but we did file the paperwork to get that position opened. And I just stated on there that as of July 1, it is stated to be funded. So let's get this, open as soon as possible. Regarding teen programs, I know I actually just did a teen program last week. I did a teen painting program I did, and just called Let's Paint. And I'm doing 2 adult programs and a kids program, but I did one, I think it's somewhere between, it was a small group between 13 and 16 kids, but we all just painted a cypress tree. And
So you're the de facto teen librarian right now.
no, I wanted to, it was as part of the summer reading group, as the committee here for all the staff, we were looking at what programs to have for different ages. And so I said, I'll add something for teens and tweens on that. So we have been, I will say with Mary, she's been doing a lot of the stuff, bringing in different ages with the sewing, as Kim talks about, but nothing really dedicated on that side as much until we get that person on board. So
It would be great if the person could start soon enough so that they're ready to go when school starts. I know that's a tall order, but
yeah, if we could get those going, like in terms of having the really go through the process quick, if we can get through the process quick, I think it'd be great and start making those. And I know Kim and I discussed earlier today doing outreach at MPUSD. They were doing a request for us and possibly going out to Seaside. And we discussed about how that we have a number of students in the area that live in Seaside, go to Monterey, and what kind of services we could provide, or doing outreach and tabling and trying to make those connections right now are still important. So for us to continue to build the relationships with the different folks in the school district, so that when our teen librarian comes on, we're not just handing off the keys and saying, figure it out. Like, we want to make sure to bring them on and connected.
That's great.
thank you.
Janie?
And who will be involved in the selection committee or panel?
We always have to ask, like for other, we start off with kind of interviews with outside agencies. So in the past, we've worked with Monterey County or Harrison Memorial and PG Library, other libraries that have similar positions. We generally reach out to them and see if they have somebody involved. So most likely somebody in our MOBAC Library Consortium area that knows the region well. We'll reach out to them to sit on an early hiring committee.
No, there's,
Kim, educate me. What is a gamma graph? What are binary machine code necklaces? And what is a giant marble run?
Zeros and ones.
Okay, well, I know two of those. The first one you said is an image where if you look at it from one side, it looks like one picture. And if you look at it from another angle, it looks like a separate picture. And that's accomplished by like kind of folding the paper in a zigzag.
Huh.
And doing the art on like every other section. And
That's
then,
a gamma graph.
yes.
again,
And then the marble run was accomplished by using flattened cardboard boxes and toilet paper tubes and paper towel tubes and lots of recycled boxes and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And then the binary necklace, do you remember how she did that? I don't remember that one.
I don't think I remember that one. I know the other two, like you said, but I'm thinking the binary necklace.
Were pictures taken of these activities when they were, going on?
Hopefully.
Pardon me? I'm sure they were. I mean, that was sort of a rhetorical question. So if visually, I could understand it even better than your description if I had a photo. So if you could, in our read packet or something for the next meeting, if you could include a few photos of those activities, it'd be great.
Sure.
And a description as well as a photo of a binary machine code necklace. Since
Gotta
nobody
be
in the room knows what it
zeros
is.
and ones, zeros and ones. I'm a computer science minor. There's zeros and ones.
zeros and then necklaces.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
I have one question. I'm kind of jumping the gun on the next report, but how many do you have signed up so far for summer reading? Or do you know off your?
Well, how many logs did we order to begin with? Because I know we placed an order for some more reading,
Mhm.
like game board logs.
Priced an initial order for 800, and
Wow,
we were running, everything we have is running low. And so
Mhm.
Sarah asked me to
Mhm.
order 200 more for now. So, yeah, but I don't know how many we have completed. I think completed is also the main number we generally get, but we've been distributing quite a bit.
great. Thank you. Do we have any members of the public? Okay, then we will move on. Thank you. Item number 6, receive financial report.
That's me. Unless Kim wants to add anything on here too. Yeah, so we are nearing our end of our fiscal year coming in right now. You'll see this is as of May 31st on this report. And percent spent at 83.7%. So we're getting close on there. As a reminder, for next fiscal year, these units are going to consolidate to 5510 and 5530. Just the numbers will be harder to see kind of year to year if we're looking at it on that side for the expenditures. And the reader services, you'll notice that percent spent, of course, that's a very small budget line item. So if you look at the 223.5, that's in relation to, the variance is not very large overall because it's a $2,000 variance. But overall, our trust fund, we've spent 36.5% of our budgeted amount. So mostly it's been coming out of the general fund for what we've been spending on that side. The one side about the library trust fund that is spent is, portions on the 5510 does cover our library materials through trust fund. And often when we have grants, the funds go from library materials into either the 5510 under library, I'm sorry, the grants funding's going to 5510 under the 810 library trust fund, or specific expenditures going on there. And then our library administration also for 101 general fund, that's where our library materials budget also falls under. So that's why we're there. And for our revenue balance, because of our different grants that we received over this fiscal year, we are at a higher amount. Therefore, our adopted budget was 86,100, but year to date was 181,760. So we were double what we had budgeted for our income regarding different C gives and our grants and funds coming in on that side. And as well, we're close to the amount on our youth services, and that's where I believe the early learning hub grant funding went into there. And other than that, there's amounts on the revenue for different services. So that's happy to answer any questions on there, but I think the revenues are coming in. We're coming in better than we expected this year, which is good to see. And I'm hopeful for next year that we can continue with that. I don't know how the state budget is going to hold up, because the state budget is going to affect the ability for us to receive different grants or when they're going to issue grants. They may delay amounts on different aspects. We do know we have some funding coming in for the remainder of the early learning hub. So my projections for 2024 are not on this, but when I was working on the budget for 2024, I didn't do as high of a number for 2024 as what we've received so far. And that's because I didn't know if any other large grants would be available either through IMLS or through the California State Library, based on federal and state budgets, kind of predictions that are out there. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that.
Trustees, any questions, comments? Yeah, Bob.
In the revenue, I'm just picking two numbers here. For the general fund, it says on the revenue balance page, percent spent 112%. Right in the lower right corner of that section there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I turn to the next page and it talks about expenditures, general fund, percent spent 83.7. I let H&R Block do my income taxes, so explain to me why those two numbers aren't identical.
Because I believe it should actually say percent. It's the report that's sent, that is basically the revenue and expenditures by what is done by our financial system, because it should actually say percent received rather than percent spent on the revenue.
In the first page I was talking about.
Right. So the expenditure balance is percent spent. That is correct at 83.7% of our budget has been spent.
And we've received 112% of what we'd expected.
Correct. And then as a total then from the trust fund, we've received 120.3%
You
received.
said percent spent, and then everyone said expenditures. I thought, well, why aren't they equal?
Right. So that's
Oh, good.
Marcia?
I just have, refresh my memory on the library administration. Are there any personnel, is the trust fund still funding any personnel in the library, like the fund development director?
Right. Yes. So there are currently, for this fiscal year, there's the fund development officer, the fund development assistant, and communications specialist. So the fund development assistant is roughly about 10 hours a week. The communications person works 5 to 10 hours per week. And then the fund development officer works about 20 hours a week. So it's covering roughly about 30 hours a week of 30 to 35 hours a week of service from the trust fund.
30 hours.
She only works half time. Make sure your mic on.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So she only works half time. She's fully funded by the trust fund and not by the.
Correct. So she is a part-time seasonal employee with a maximum number of 1,000 hours per annual year that they can work on in there.
So that's folded into the library administration line expenditures from the trust fund.
Correct,
All that.
correct. And so you will see on here, when you're looking at the expenditure balance, for example, on the youth services under, I believe, under 810, under reference services and youth services, or you'll see the expenditures under there, under fund expenditure balance, and then Fund 810 Library Trust Fund. If you look at 5530 reference services and 5540 youth services, and you look at the expenditures of reference at 6.1% or youth services at 18.4%, that's because there was a number of library hours that were actually budgeted for reference librarians and for youth services through the trust fund, but we spent the funds for that out of the general fund for the people that were working those hours. So very few of the hours were actually billed to the trust fund. So that, and that fund really, what it does is it rolls back into the trust fund account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next item is item number 7, receive statistical report.
Back to me. All right. Unless you want to jump in, Kim. So our customer visits are slightly up, which is always great to see in the library over last calendar year. California history rooms are going up slightly as well. And our circulation is up as of May. All of those things are up on a bit, which is great to see. Going back to our checkouts, the patron app is pretty steady. There's been around 600 to 700, seems like every month. The bookmobile checkouts have been consistently going up, and our help desk checkouts are actually been dropping as our self-checkout numbers are increasing. And I think it helps to just have a self-checkout machine that doesn't have a lot of problems and it's really simple to use. So the simpler you can make your technology, I think the more people will use it. So I think that's great to see. Library card issues slightly down, but I think that we're still actively trying to promote new users out there. And other than that, wireless sessions, people are still coming to the library using for wireless and all of our public computers. The youth programs, the programs for adults, a lot of the programs for adults last month were the computer help. That's why the attendance, if you look at the total attendance or the average attendance, I should say, for programs for adults versus the attendance at adults, where you see it's a really, an average of under basically it's around a little bit, 6.1, 6.2 average for adult. I think it's because a lot of that was their computer help, which is a smaller program, but that we have the multiple sessions. And overall, the attendance at offsite programs, we've had different bookmobile programs as well, and those were in part of Kim's report. And our youth programs have been very steady and popular going in. And our team, we've had a few teen programs, which is great to see. And then our volunteers, a little bit of a drop, but still very healthy and active volunteer group on there. And happy to answer any questions, but I think I'm really excited to look at what the June numbers are going to look like for all of our statistics for summer.
Trustees? Harish?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. First, about the visits to the library. Is that counting every human being that comes in? Meaning, if a mother comes in with, say, 3 kids and a baby, is that counting 5?
It should, because it's a gate counter. So it's like passing through a line. It's gonna count you every time. We don't physically use a clicker. The gates actually count everybody that goes in on there.
The second is about the web renewals.
Mhm.
Is there an in-person renewal?
That would be, I would imagine those would be included in the, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, I think that would either count on the self-checkout or at the help desk. That's where this data would be counted, because you can renew your items either at the self-checkout or at the help desk.
But it's also in your sitting home in your bedroom.
So that would be the web renewals. So that would be the number. The web renewals would be something that you're not using a library computer, because the library computers would count that based on where your access point is. So if you're accessing from an external network, that would be a web renewal.
I was thinking the increase or decrease would be of importance only if it is relative to somebody going to the help desk to get it done. Because that would be meaningful to say fewer people are going to the help desk, they're doing it on their own. If 7% more people are renewing just because they haven't gotten around to reading it yet, that doesn't tell me anything useful.
I will say that the checkout and renewals is a state library statistic. So using the circulation data, renewals are counted as part of your library usage and general circulation of how libraries count items. I think the web renewals is probably specifically called out over time to see who is using that service, whether using the website, and because people do count generally telephone renewals, text message renewals, or they'll contact, and it's the point of contact of how people are doing the service. One thing I have been in communication with the staff about is expanding to automated renewals, because we have the ability to actually automate renewals on there. And what that does is, for the majority of people, what it does is 90 to 95% of the people using renewals, it's like setting up an auto pay on your account, where basically whenever you check out an item, if there's a max 3 renewals, it's just going to renew it automatically at the date that it's due. It's not going to give you that, like a 12-week checkout. It's going to give you 3 weeks, then the 3 weeks comes up, and then it renews your items as long as there's no holds on it, and then it goes through. So you don't have to log in on the day of that. That helps actually with state statistics as well, because you're getting that. It actually helps with people that I was out of town and I was not able to get online or access my account and renew my items. There's a number of things that automated renewals really helps with people that have busy lives with doing that. But there are people that are going to be, I have an item on hold, and the item was on hold, I wasn't able to renew it, or the system didn't renew it. That will block them. But I think, in the future, and once we get the text message renewals, I do think that number will be important to track to see how well an item like that is used. Because like the telephone renewals had really dropped down, and I don't think that was in past years as far as I know and collected, but I think the numbers had really dwindled on that phone renewal.
So this web renewals, would it also include renewals the app? The patron app, you can renew it. It's already logged on all the time. It's much easier than to actually get onto the library site, log in, and then renew.
I think I would have to verify with David, but I would imagine, because it still tracks on where your access point is, because we're getting information based on the location where the service that is providing, and that provides the transaction information through a SIP portal. And I would imagine that the data that we pull on regarding transaction and usage would most likely count that as a patron app, because that would just be like a patron app use of somebody logging in saying, I'm doing it. Because it doesn't count whether you can use the patron app from home, you can use the patron app from the library, you can use it wherever you want. So I think this is really counting that as a patron app, whether you're using it or not. I think that just counts it whether it's a checkout or renewal as a total, as far as I would understand how the system works.
Marcia?
I just are you still doing the state library? You have to do the state library survey thing every year. So you did it already this year. So my question is, could the board get a copy of it or see it? Because
Yeah, we can
sort of
compare from
compares
last year.
us to all the other libraries, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting metric. I know it's probably enormous. I don't want to print it, but maybe either some subset of it, or just email it to us and we can look at it at our leisure, or maybe put it on an agenda. I don't know, but it's an interesting benchmarking exercise to see how we stack up with other libraries in the state. So that's for future.
Sure. And I mean, happy to work with you all on that. And we did, I believe it was October and November. I worked with David on the different data on that, and Kim, we submitted, I thought it was October of last year, October,
We
November.
we may want to
And-
wait till next October
No.
to look at it. I don't know, but at
Yeah.
some point we should probably
The-
give it a glance.
The data was just released in, I believe, April. The reports just came back. So we had submitted the data and then the data came back.
Mhm.
I know that if you go through this, because the state does have a public portal for anybody can look up certain like data you can run through, but I don't believe that they have indexed all of the data from all the libraries yet. I can verify because I actually was looking at I know there was prior, I think in 2020, there was a benchmark report that the board worked on with the city manager's office. I re-pulled that data based on the 2023. I actually reached out to the different benchmark libraries that were there to re-pull the data to look at additional years. And so based on what exactly we would want, if we would want to look at a benchmark or if we would want to look at just a single report, be happy to look at what parameters are needed so we can present it.
The benchmark would be really interesting
Yeah.
because we went over those
We'd have something to
benchmarks in
compare with.
2020
Yeah.
and to see how it's progressed with the libraries that are comparable to ours is
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah. And so like I said, I used the exact same libraries. I just pulled the data regarding current years to kind of pull more additional data. And I have that in an Excel report.
Would be great.
Yeah, that thing was kind of shrunk down from that monster thing. And so it's really more relevant to us, I think.
Yeah, because otherwise
Yeah.
they ask for stuff in a strange way.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
Janie?
Oh, I just wanted to say that the automatic renewal is a wonderful thing, and I will be so happy
Oh, yeah.
when that comes. Yeah, we get more.
The automatic renewal, it will renew a book on its 3-week due date if there's no hold on it. If there is a hold on it, will you still be sending me an email reminding me that in 3 days your book is due? But Bob, you can't rely on an automatic renewal because Kim has a hold on your book.
What my vision was for it, because some of these technologies are not the smartest.
But I
But
mean,
so,
that would be important to still remind the person that has the book that they got to return it and it's not going to be automatically renewed
So that-
because somebody has requested it.
so that was the part that I really thought, that's why I wanted to work on the text message service of adding that on as another component, because whether it comes in and when you do automatic renewal and we can send in the notice, I do have to work with, I think I'd work with David on what that notices would say on those items for your 3-day renewals, because we still set up all the renewal notices on there. But the text message, the reason that I like that from my prior system was it would send you a message and saying, this item is due and not able to be renewed. Because it goes in there and it tells you that like you have a list of items and some cannot be renewed. And so that's the thing about opting into those things, and it won't work for everybody. And a small percentage of our collection is generally on hold for other people. And a lot of times it is like the newest releases or, items that other people are kind of on a waiting list for. But I do hear that, because I think setting up a way that we can allow people to opt in or get the messaging out there that this item is going to be due in a couple of days and it may not be renewable is very important.
And
'cause-
it's not allowed, may not be, but I mean, that's kind of like, well, maybe not, but I mean,
right. And that's,
it's
but
not renewable.
right. And I mean, that's where I think that the text message system, like if we could set that up appropriately, is important, because if you get a notice 3 days before this item is going to be due in 3 days, but the day before the renewal, somebody places a hold, right? There's
Sure,
that period of time that like maybe there's no hold on it 3 days before, but on the day before, the night before, somebody places a hold on it.
Yeah.
That's when the messaging, the timing really matters. And then having something else that would notify people that this item is due today and not.
Well, the only way to not be unfair to the person that has the book out in that scenario would be to tell the person who wants to put a hold on it, you had to do it 72 hours before the due date, because how are we going to let the person know that it's not being automatically, it muddies the waters. And also you're talking about setting up a text message system.
Mhm.
Well, that's fine, but that's not in lieu of or to replace or to eliminate emails.
No, so we
A lot of people won't have both or be using both.
right. So this was the one we talked at a previous appropriation where we had the funding was appropriate for this, and it's an opt-in. So the text message is an opt-in service.
Okay.
And so the email would be the primary
Yeah.
communication, and then the text message is an opt-in, and that's the one we're currently working through with a vendor.
Speaking of technology and all that stuff, the one statistic that I was looking at in this month's report is the one of visits to the website.
Mhm.
And understandably, it went down from 2019, 2020, which is roughly pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
to the two pandemic years. And it has gone back up. Well, no, it's continued to drop. And it's even lower now that we're reopened this last 12 months than it was before. So I guess what I'm wondering is, why is the website not being used so much? And do we have any data, not just the raw number of how many website visits there were, but do we know what people are using it for? What are they visiting? What are they asking or doing when they visit the website? And this is separate from the catalog, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering, because the last year it's roughly 74,000. Pre-pandemic, it was over 119,000, and it's gone down every year since then. So I'm just wondering, why hasn't it gone back up? And what are they using it for if we have that data broken down at all?
I do know I was talking with the city's public information officer about like they were looking at a new suite of Google Analytics to see like where people are tracking. I haven't seen that data yet. And I don't know over time with that. I know that we had reduced the number of resources online. The number of databases and resources have been reduced during the pandemic. I know since we have our new website, the traffic has gone up. You'll see that just on the month, May 2023 versus May 2022, there is a slight increase on that. But yes, overall on the annual side, I think one of the things also to look at on the traffic of emails is people's patterns, because ebooks, they've gone away from having like the website use of things that they're really going to Libby, going directly through your app. So downloading like ebooks and everything like that, rather than looking through an online thing. Palace Project, they want it directly on the app. So you download the app rather than download it onto your computer the way it used to be several years ago.
Yeah.
With a lot of e-materials, you actually downloaded the items on your computer and then sent it to your device. And so over the past several years, Libby, Overdrive, they've really moved primarily to device specific. So download it directly on your device to use the items. I don't know if that would kind of reduce traffic to the website, but I think if people are using that as an area to look for on the website, so I do think Google Analytics would be good to see. Kim and I did talk as well, just in terms of what content to build on or keep on the library website. And one thing with limited staff is that, do you need to build content about every genre and subset of information? Because you'll see a lot of academic libraries where you have a specific science librarian or history librarian, they're going to build a history page that's very relevant to the students coming in there, or the science, or what are the books, what is the information on there. And if we are not the gatekeepers of that, if people are looking at public information, we should really control the information that's relevant to Monterey. And so I think, where are people going to go? So whether that's California History Room, is it stuff regarding Monterey history? Those things I think are appropriate for the library to kind of build the content, but resources for teens or resources for kids, other agencies are more up to date at that, because you really have to update all of your links. You have to make sure all of the content, the phone numbers, all of those things are really up to date consistently. And I don't think we have the appropriate staff to do those kind of services anymore, and other agencies are. So I would just state that the what information up there that's relevant and being used is most important. And I do think, as we can build more content, once we're able to open up our content for our digital content for California history, I do think our traffic will go up because that's where people are going to be looking for. People are going to be looking for history of California and Monterey through the California History Room in our library, and having that on-site tracking that data will be really important.
So am I understanding you right that because I'm a card holder at the Monterey Library, I can go to Flipster and look at some magazines. But I don't go to the library to do that. I go to Flipster and, punch in my library card number or something. That wouldn't count up in this website tally, would it?
It would if you went to, I know there's a database search and views, which is 4 items down under reference and customer service. So I think that's the database searches views, where it goes reference question answered, other questions answered, and database searches views, because that would authenticate you. Because if you went through Flipster, you would still authenticate through either, if you had to authenticate through the library website for a site, some of the services do make you authenticate, or if you had bookmarked it and you had created an account already.
Yeah.
Depends on the service. Cause I use the apps on some of those things, and
That's what I mean. I just go right away and it already logs me in.
yeah. But if you're in, like, for example, if you're in database like ancestry.com inside the library, you actually have to go through a library terminal through Ancestry for it to authenticate our website, authenticate you as a user. So some of the digital resources, I think the missions are one of them, that you actually have to authenticate by clicking on a link through the library, and that would count them under this 595 on here.
It's almost by making it easier for patrons to use. We're losing a click on our virtual clicker.
Yeah, that side of it, I think, but because you will see like ebook, audio checkout to MPL card holder, circulation of collection, the second kind of section up there, and you'll see that those numbers have increased, right? So where you see it goes from 3,590 last year to 4,968, and then by making those digital collections easier to check out, I think less people are going through. And there was a lot of digital rights management content issues in the past several years with ebooks. And I think, the vendors are making it a little bit easier to check out on your devices now.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. Just follow up on that. So that ebook one also includes Overdrive, Libby, or whatever you want to call it.
Correct.
So yeah, when you do the search on our catalog, Overdrive pops up and you do it that way. But if you just get onto your Overdrive app, then it doesn't count Monterey, or it does.
It'll count in under this number right here, the circulation of the collection. Will count because we get a count of the circulation collection directly through Libby, which
Oh,
is
I see. Because when you sign up for it, you give it your library. So your app on your phone is linked to Monterey.
correct. But you're not linking to it through our website.
Right.
So that's why some of these traffics of the website may be decreased. And I would have to look at specific numbers through analytics, but the numbers are decreasing because you've done that first authentication, you've set up an account.
Right.
Now you're at home and you're just on your app and downloading it
Go
directly
through,
from the
you
device.
just go right to Overdrive.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Jamie?
Do you all use Patronet? I have not downloaded it yet.
I have-
Yes, yes.
it
I have it.
PG this afternoon.
Yes.
For PG library.
You use what, Jenny?
The Patronet,
The patron.
the
app.
Patronet for Monterey Public
Check out
Library.
on your phone.
Yeah.
Instead of your library.
Yeah. There's a QR code in the library. This is the back of the thing. So
We should walk over there and do it after this.
All right. But Marcia's the only one? Oh,
Mhm.
I use it too.
I'm sure you do. You better. Okay. And does it give you notifications and things like that through the app?
The app does not. The app is really just a kind of like a checkout function. So it doesn't have one service I've asked them, FE Technologies, to add on there, but they haven't done it on there. I think there's a different way to do it, to add your barcode. on there, because when you're doing multiple items, because you have to scan physically each
Mhm.
item one by one. And if you're doing a lot of items, the self-checkout machine is faster based on your network connection too. So I asked them if they could include a digital copy of your barcode, because you can use a photo of your barcode, your library barcode, or type in your number at a self-checkout machine. So if you, but like Apple Wallet and these other devices, there's not a way for Apple Wallet for you to add a library card right now, to add the library card. There's only 2 states that have a driver's license edition in an Apple Wallet right now. So with that, it was just interested in getting this to just have your physical card, so you can open up the app and just scan that. It's because people don't always bring their cards to the library.
But the beauty is that you can sit in your bed with your phone and renew your books
Mhm.
on the Patron app. You don't have to
Mhm.
get on your computer to do that or go into the library, that you can in Chicago, sit on your phone and renew your, I did it in Sicily last year, renewed all my library.
I do everything on my phone anyway, but, it's just a matter of,
Right,
Is
right,
it
but
come
just going
through the app
is
or
much
do you-
easier, right?
I'm,
get
I'm,
the
I'm,
email notice and then renew it.
I'm
through-
confused how the
um,
patron app is any different than just clicking on Libby and renewing or returning.
Libby is for your ebooks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the
the Patron app is all your books.
a Patron app is just specifically Monterey Public Library app. And so it works by using your camera on your phone to scan the item, and then it connects to through a SIP connection and checks that book out to your account and clears the RFID, so you won't beep when you leave from the library
So it's
either.
just replacing Koha actually,
It connects to Koha.
because that's how if I want to renew a book,
Mhm.
I go into Koha and I click renew and bingo, it's renewed.
Right, and this
So I
one,
can do it from Sicily or I can do it from my home in Monterey.
and this one will also have it, so it's just if it's saved, so you have on the app, if you have the Monterey Public Library app, rather than you have it logged into your account, unless you decide to log off. I just have mine logged on, and I just can go through my list and see when everything is due and click renew
Yeah,
on all of them. But it's very simple. And then when you go to borrow, it lets you see it. But when you go to borrow, you could be in the nonfiction stacks and just check out an item. So if there's a line of people inside the library, you just go in there and you can actually scan using the camera on your smartphone. And it does work at the PG library as well.
Slick. Very
There's
slick.
some tricks to using the camera, though.
Yeah.
I've discovered that it's a little too eager to scan whatever it sees, and it'll scan the partial thing. So I've
Yeah.
learned to cover the barcode with my finger, line up the camera, and then release the finger.
That's why I mean that sometimes if you're doing especially a stack, and because I've had stacks of children's books, and that it wants to read really fast with the camera, and that's why I think the self-checkout machines can actually be faster when you have a group of books, and that's why having a digital card that can be read by an optical scanner would be good.
That's what we need, a digital card that you can use in your wallet and say, take this card.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Again, Francesca, do we have any public?
There are no public comments, Chair Felder.
Thank you. It's the time for trustee comments. Start with you, Marcia.
Well, I want to thank Jen and Harish for stepping up and your leadership for this whole year. You got us through a great transition year and onboarded our director and kept us together, and we appreciate everything you did. And welcome to our new chair
Thank
and
you.
vice chair.
And Vice Chair. Thank you. Harish?
Well, I appreciate your service for the last year. I'm looking forward to Chair Felgood 2.0.
Thank you. JD?
I also appreciate your service and recruiting me. I just wanted to make a comment about the Buffalo Soldiers exhibit that I love history, of course, and it was good to see. It was very nice.
Bob?
I guess my comment is, I'm wondering, Kim, you mentioned something, but didn't elaborate. How did the the day we closed for the staff training, was it called Staff Training Day? How'd that go? And, you know, what's come out of that?
Yeah, well, I think we just built, we had different breakout sessions throughout the day, and a number of things for people to participate in terms of trainings on COHA, training discussions on trauma, and discussions. I led an activity on a craft for people to do, and just kind of getting people team building, a mix of learning and a mix of fun and food, and just having a day to really focus on the team. And I think building the team and building relationships were, for me, something very important for the library. So people kind of connect with each other in different avenues, because people don't always recognize what everyone else does in the library, or what they really contribute. So I think just finding ways to connect outside of this is my normal role are really important for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to thank you and Kim, and it seems like whenever I walk in, and, you know, I try to engage, whether it's a volunteer or staff member, in a little bit of conversation, just so they know the board cares about them too. And it seems like so far everybody's a happy camper, and, you know, that, you know, makes them more motivated to come to work, and they're dedicated, and public seems you know, like they're getting helped. I mean, you can stand back and watch that happen. So, you know, I'm just happy to see that when I come in.
Appreciate it.
Also, the new checkout machines. I mean, when you first started the one where you could use your phone and stand at the other end of the library and check out a book, you know, I learned how to do it, and I did it once. I have never, ever used that again, because every single time, I mean, every time I've come in to check out books, and you've seen me, there's never been a wait at the self-checkout. I mean, I've always just been able to walk up there, shove the books underneath, walk out, and nothing could be quicker than that. So that's really good. And I don't know how many people take the time to use their cell phone and go through the other operation, but if you had a stopwatch on it, I don't think it would be any quicker than you know, everything I've done. So anyhow, I'm keep that machine well oiled and lubricated. Okay. Thank
My
you.
only comment is thank you, everybody, as I lit my way through this year. And I look forward to serving as a board member under Harish and Janie. And thank you to all of the staff. It's exciting to see the library coming back to life, and adding new staff and ramping up programs and being innovative. I'm really happy about that. So,
Yeah.
thank you all. And so with that, the meeting is adjourned.